Here tonight at 10:30. Let's go. I just wrote that in the comments. Sheldon, episode 48. That also happens to be episode Brian Clark. Both our teammate, a famous number 48 at the Calgary Stampeders. Also in the famous athletes who wore the number 48. It would be NASCAR driver Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson wore 48. Torrey Hunter, MLB, and then Scotty Young in the NHL. So we're live. It's 10:30. We got our first joiners, Rubio. Guys, we're trying something different. We said it a few weeks ago that we're going to tweak things, we're going to torque things, we're going to twist and tie and untie. And you know what? This is something we tried. We've been talking about it for a while, Sheldon. You've been saying you wanted that 10:30 start. Here we are.
Well, I mean, I think I was saying 9. But I know how real life goes, right? It's hard. And you guys, anybody here that's a dad and kids at a certain age, know exactly how hard it can be sometimes to commit to an earlier time. But Chevy, I really appreciate you trying it tonight. But we're talking about episode 48. So I'm just, while we're getting everybody on, just want to throw out a Brian Clark story. Because you did play with Brian Clark for 2 or 3 years, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I absolutely did. Brian Clark.
So he was one of those guys. He was an absolute stud middle linebacker, one of the smartest players, super aggressive, not the biggest guy, but he just made plays. But he's also, maybe all you guys don't remember this, but he was handsome. Do you remember those Rob Lowe good looks?
Yeah, he was a handsome guy. I was a Brian Clark fan when he played for the Alouettes, and I was in university at McGill.
I forgot he was there. I just remember from Winnipeg.
He actually used to live in the McGill ghetto with some of my teammates that I'm actually going to go see this weekend. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, handsome dude.
I remember, I think it was the 2003 season that they came out with these promo shirts. Each guy, would get a shirt given out to the crowd. And I think week 7 or something was a Brian Clark shirt. So I couldn't help but get my hands on one of those shirts and wear it into practice the next day as my undershirt, wearing that in there saying Brian Clark, I'm your biggest fan, man. And he just looked at me in the eye with those beautiful, stunning blue eyes of his and says, "Does your wife make you wear that to bed at night?" Oh,
the truth
is, I think she did once, but
and it's funny. Brian Clark was serious as a heart attack, right? Great linebacker, like you said, pride of Hofstra. My Brian Clark story is, again, I looked up to this guy when he played with the Alouettes, and then all of a sudden I'm his teammate a few years later, and it was pretty cool. But I thought he was a serious linebacker, and I just remember one day we're on a road trip, and we're in a hotel room, and somehow we snuck it. I guess we were in Sandro DeAngelis, kicker for the Stampeders, and Burke Dales. They shared a room, punter, the late great Burke Dales, and so Brian Clark. We're all in the room, and we're just chatting and stuff. And somehow Brian Clark snuck underneath Sandro's sheets while we're all talking and hanging out. And I guess he just geared down. He was absolutely naked. And when Sandro sat on his bed, he came out of the bathroom. Brian jumped out of the covers completely butt-ass naked. And Sandro jumped to his feet, wheel rolling. So I saw a different side of Brian Clark. But that's the episode. We're at episode 48 tonight, guys. We're going to start the show right after this.
All right, welcome back to the ride, everybody. And we've got a good one for you tonight. But as always, we've got to remember our sponsors, Performance Freight Management and We Drone Real Estate Media. Without them, we probably wouldn't be on the air, or at least we wouldn't have these fancy graphics and everything that Trey brings us every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And Sheldon, I like that you threw me the curveball with the Brian Clark story. Definitely not part of our plan. Went a little long on the intro, but you know what? It was fun to reminisce. And that's the beauty of our show. We could do our thing, and we got Trey in the back. He's so smart, so cool. He's pressing all the buttons, And we're going to get on with our show. And for tonight, guys, this is your ride. So what we got,
Oh,
Sheldon?
yeah. So to start it off, we got a little story from a playoff game the other day. Chevy wearing 2 separate shoes. I would argue, why not? If you've got 2 separate feet, why wear the same shoes? And as always, we've got your 300-pound poetry.
Yeah, and then we got some week 20 picks. So I guess we're going into the final week of the CFL season, and the Chevy and Nasty Blitz, which we started a couple of weeks ago, and you guys seem to be enjoying that.
A little later, I think you guys have probably seen it, where fans start to take things a little bit too personal and maybe hurting some players' feelings. Are highly paid players allowed to have hurt feelings? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, and it's back by popular demand. Well, you know what? Popular demand from Nasty.
From Chevy and Nasty.
Yeah, studs and duds. Something we used to do way back when we were on the air in the Fan 960. We thought, why not bring it back? Give a little structure to this ride. And I guess that's me, Chevy. I'm going back to McGill tomorrow. I'm taking a flight. I'm going back home. Going to visit Mama. Got some business to take care of. And we're going to talk about all that and a little bit more on tonight's ride.
But I don't know, Chev, what do you want to do? You want to just jump right into the poetry? Trey.
No, we're gonna no, it's the 2 shoes, Sheldon. Come on, man. I spent all night on the structure of the show. I wrote it all out.
Let me tell you this story.
And
so
Sheldon's
guys,
throwing all the curveballs.
I'm throwing a ton of curveballs tonight. There's method to my madness, so I wanted to wait for a couple more guys to get on before we got started with the new time. So I was just buying a little bit of time. But so this week, obviously, guys, anybody that's in the Calgary area knows we went from T-shirts and shorts, guys sunning out in their backyard on Sunday, to an absolute snowfall on Monday. Well, Chevy and I are coaching in the playoffs, and you're busy rushing your kids off to school or rushing them off, getting them to practice. This is before the snow came in. But Chev took care of his son, but he shows up with 2 different shoes. Chev, what is going on in your mind? Like I've rushed off without my keys. I've forgotten my wallet. I've forgotten my phone. I don't think I've ever once put on 2 different shoes before. Like, how do you not notice that as you're going out the door? Well, don't they feel different?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what I love about this show? This show is about real life stuff. It's not just sports. It's not just like movies. But it's stuff that happens to dudes. Now, when you talk to someone and you haven't seen them in a while, or hey, how's it going? And what do we always answer? Oh man, I'm super busy. Yeah, working, kids. And I catch myself doing that, realizing that everybody is super busy if they've got a few kids, if they're in sports, if they're doing stuff, right? And I just seem to feel, as a single dad, especially the weeks I have my kids, I am always running. And I talk about this to you often. Like, I come home from work, I get home at 6, I'm cooking dinner, I'm running the football field, I come back, I'm cleaning up, I'm making lunches, doing laundry. Like, I got 2 roles when I got my kids, and I'm running, and I got 3 kids in sports. One of my kids is in 2 sports, and it is a grind. And the weekends is no different on the weekend. And so Saturday afternoon was our final game of the season, and I'm rushing to do all the stuff, feed the kids, get everything ready. Bop, 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 bop. Kyle gets to the car. Dad, we're going to be late. Yet I'm doing all the stuff to get us out the door, and people don't realize you're the last one out because you're doing all the stuff. I grab my shoes. I grab Kyle, drop him off at the stadium at Shoaldice an hour before the game. Everything was fine. They dropped him off. I parked the car. I sat in the car for a couple of minutes because I had to do something. In fact, I actually think I posted one of our Instagram social media clips. And then I walked to the locker room. Well, lo and behold, I'm walking and I check down on my phone and I look beyond my phone and I see the white outline of my running shoe. And I'm looking at the other shoe. I'm like, these are like, and I looked left and I looked right. I was like, who did this to me? Like, it's, like, I couldn't process that I put on 2 different shoes because I could have sworn I grabbed the same shoe. And I'm looking down. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I think I posted this. I posted it right away. I was like, tell me your dad. Show me that you're a busy dad without telling me you're a busy dad. And yeah, that I grabbed 2 different shoes. And I'd like to say that it was for superstitious reasons to change our luck because we've been terrible this year. But it was, honest to goodness, me just, having a dad brain.
Listen, you got your son there on time. He had his cleats. We had one kid that didn't bring his cleats, right? Yeah. Anytime you throw off the schedule a little bit, we're usually playing on Saturday mornings. Here we're playing at Monday after school. And I can't believe that shot that I'm even looking at there. first off,
That was
those don't even.
Saturday. That was Saturday.
Okay, that was
Sheldon.
okay. That was okay, there you
Saturday.
go.
That was
it.
Saturday.
All
That
right,
was a game
got
we
you.
lost.
I was like, where'd all the snow go?
So that was Saturday. We lost terribly, right? And it was our final game of the season. And due to the scheduling gods of Bantam football in Calgary, we had our playoff game last night, Monday night. 2 days later, we had zero prep.
Oh,
So this is the weather last night. Bantam Cowboys versus the Chestermere Chiefs. Division 3. I guess you would call it the wild card. Win and we're in. Lose and you go home. And I'll tell you what, with that snow and how cold it was, there were a lot of guys that probably wanted to lose and go home. But we turned it around. We got our first win of the season.
we did, and a big one at that. What was it? 36-6.
I think it was actually like 42-6. But speaking of footwear, me wearing the wrong footwear on Saturday. Yesterday, I was fully decked out. You could see the snow was coming down. It's cold. I look at Sheldon, I'm like, how you handling it? Sheldon is wearing the old man Skechers. The old man Skechers to the Coach Tony Fasano will like that. And if Bruno's listening, the Skechers that you just slide in, your feet were freezing, were they not?
It was horrible. It was the same thing trying to get off, get out the door. My wife had my winter gear all ready to go. But you know what happened is we were trying to get Kai's long socks on and they didn't fit, of course. So we're scrambling to find more socks. And the one guy you don't look after is yourself. And those light little shoes, by the time I'd gotten from my truck to the field, they were probably weighing about 4 pounds each. They were sloshing. My socks were sloshing. And sitting right there around -2. Yeah, it was a long night on old Nasty's feet. But you know what? I got through it and stayed focused on the prize and found a way to get the win.
But more importantly, the kids won. We're going to play in 2 weeks. And that was awesome because, again, you go through a losing season where you barely score a touchdown. We're coaching our butts off. You've been showing up. I've been showing up. All the coaches showing up. The kids have been showing up. We had an injury-plagued season with not a lot of depth. Most of our depth were first-year kids that never really played at that level, and it showed. This last couple of weeks, we got guys back. Our O-line's playing well. Our quarterback's back. We got a weapon of a kid that, just showed up mid-season from the soccer field. Things are starting to click for the Bantam Mavericks. So hopefully a good result. But back to the shoes. At first, I'm not the type of person that's terribly embarrassed by things. Like if something happens to me, I usually own it. I'm quite self-deprecating. And so, yeah, the first thing is I kind of showed everyone, hey guys, listen, I got the shoes, but what's the worst thing you've ever forgotten to leave? Like I've left for work, forgetting my laptop, getting all the way to the office down about 45 minutes away, realizing I left my laptop at home because in the morning I got a million things to pack. But what's like the worst thing? Like you ever forget a kid? Ever forget a pet? Like what's the worst thing you've ever forgotten?
You know what? I tell you, I've never forgotten a kid or a pet. The worst thing for me has been just going off to work. For me, I'm a photographer, right? Yeah. I got to grab all my gear, pack it in the truck. And yeah, I've arrived on site. I drove all the way out to Cochrane earlier this summer and not have a tripod. My realtor's client is saying, hey, I have a tripod, but of course it doesn't work on the kind of camera that I had. So I had to drive all the way back from Cochrane. Really, I've been lucky. I've forgotten my wallet a bunch of times because I'm an idiot. I forgot my phone more than once. But never forgot something crucial like a kid. What about you?
Yeah, no, I would say the shoes. But for me, it would be work stuff. Like I said, I forgot my laptop once. That's pretty big. Early on, when I got my newer job in the fire department, I thought showing up to work without my laptop would be like, oh, death. But my coordinator is pretty cool, and he's forgotten his laptop a number of times. I usually forget my water bottle every day, and I fill up my jug of water. So yeah, I do forget things every morning. I got to do the 2 phones, wallet, keys, ID card. Because you forget any one of those things, you're screwed. One time, actually, you know what? One time, this was a bad one. One time, I forgot my wallet in Red Deer, and I was coming back on a Monday morning to work. And the tough thing is, I drive a city vehicle. So once I got to work, I realized, oh, geez, like I can't drive my van because if I got caught without a license, I'm in big trouble. So anyhow, I had to go back to Red Deer in my personal vehicle, get my wallet. Yeah, I didn't like that one. Trey says he forgot his backpack in the cafeteria first year at SAIT. Forgot his golf clubs, out golfing a few times too. Yeah, no, definitely. I lost
did you see? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I walk around the office sometimes with my coffee mug. And you know me, every once in a while I sit down or I stop to chat like I can do, put the coffee mug down, and it's a really good thermos. I found it a year and a half later by the same spot it was when I left it talking with this lady, because I went back to her desk and I was chatting with her and I noticed, hey, wait a second, that brown thermos is mine. She's like, well, that's been sitting there for about a year and a half. So I got it now. So I did find it. So that's good.
And you reclaimed it. There you go.
Yeah, I did.
Rob Evans writes in, Jen and I left Alex at home to go to a fire call. I'm assuming that Alex is not your pet rock.
Yeah, no, that would be bad. Going to a fire call, forgetting your pants, your boots, and it happens to guys, right? Or forgetting to shut the bay door of the fire hall when no one's home. That's
wide open.
That's dessert. That's lunch. So, Rob says Alex was 3. Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. But you know what we didn't forget? We're gonna move on here. We didn't forget the poem. We did not forget the poem. You know, last week AC was a little bummed out because he joined the show late, and he'll probably join late tonight because we got an early start and he's still doing his show, AC Sports Live. But last couple of weeks, we tried to start in the intro. But you know what? Now that people are settled in, we've had a chance to tell a couple of stories. We had some fun. We're warmed up. I think, Trey, Sheldon, it's time for the 300-pound poetry.
There's a crisp winter breeze. The grass is covered in snow. The ride will heat you up. And now it's time for our show.
We listened to your words. We will try these earlier starts. You thought 11 was too late. So this is for all you old farts.
The playoff picture's set, but one last regular week to play. 3 teams are headed home, while 6 in the CFL still remain.
And while the CFL season winds down, we get set for an historic World Series. The fans will go absolutely nutso, like after Deshaun Watson's torn Achilles.
Tonight, lots of QB talk from both leagues to discuss, from controversy to injury to some booger-eating disgust.
That was gross. Our flow is on point. Our rhymes are on cue. We are the 300-pound poets. And we could talk while we chew. We sure can. You don't get this big stopping to chat while you're eating. You always got to eat and you always got to chat.
You know what? Anybody that grew up eating in a like a training table or around training camp with all the guys, if you want to get the good food, you got to hit it hard, fast, eat fast, and protect the good stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah. And speaking of eating, Sheldon, last week I told you Luke turned 18 years old. Well, this Friday night, I finally cornered him. He's a busy kid. We talk about that busyness. Well, he's got the girlfriend. He's got the job. He's going to university, drives the car, plays junior C hockey. Too busy for dad. Too busy for brothers. He's always gone, right? But Friday night, I'm like, I didn't have, Brittany wasn't in town. Brett was out at a function. Kyle had a full week of football and hockey. I was like, Kyle, you stay home. I cornered him. I'm like, Luke, I'm taking you out. And I took Luke out for our first adult night and drink. There we are.
There you go.
OJ's in Kensington, sharing a Moscow Mule.
I was just going to say, can I guess? I bet you that's a Moscow Mule. There you go.
Yeah. And we had fish and chips. He had never had fish and chips before. So we had our first fish and chips. Yeah. And he loved it. It was, you know what? A good plate of fish and chips is a real fun meal to eat, especially when the tartar sauce is on point. Man, we loved it. So I took him out there, Sheldon. We had a good time. It's not his first drink. He's had a drink before, but it was our first time, me taking him out and just going out. There was a game there was actually a baseball game. It was the Yankees and Cleveland on the tube. And I was watching the Yankees win for Bruno, because Bruno's a big Yankees fan and they're going to the World Series, but we had a good time. And then I was like, Luke, I'm taking you out. He's like, well, Dad, where are we going? And he was all kind of pressed for time because, he thought he was going to go see his friends afterwards. He had made plans. I'm like, don't make plans with your friends. You're with Dad tonight. And so I joked around that I was taking him to the strippers. He's like, oh, no,
oh, God.
But no, I told him, I said, look, I wouldn't take you to strippers. But I actually brought him to Yuck Yuck's Comedy Club at the Elbow River Casino.
Oh, wow.
And
that's not that different. So, depending on who's on that night, that's not always that different.
Well, and that's the thing. He had never been to a comedy show. Yuck Yucks, our good friend Scott Robertson. He was at our men's movie night in May. We might do something at Yuck Yucks one day, and very happy to plug his club. But yeah, I brought Luke to Yuck Yucks. There was Chris LaBelle, local comedian, really animated. We probably are going to get him on the show at some point. Brett Forte, another local comedian, and Brian Callen, famous for being on The Hangover, Meet the Goldbergs. He's got Fighter and the Kid podcast, which is one of the most famous kids out there with Matt Schaub, UFC guy. But they all had one thing in common. They were all super inappropriate. And I believe it was the first time that my son was in a situation or an environment where off-color, offside jokes were being told, because here he is, a kid his whole life, being told, well, you can't say this, you can't do that. And that's how it is in school, right? They want kids to they kind of want to point kids in the right direction and stuff. But at the same time, you see these things happening as a teenage kid and you don't know what to make of it. And it was neat to bring him in an environment where he felt safe to laugh. And at first he was uneasy with some of the comedy, especially when Chris came out, said a couple of jokes about Tim Hortons and some of the personnel there. And he made a great point. He's like, yeah, you used to go to Tim Hortons and everyone was hello. And then now it's like, Tim Hortons, what do you want? And so again, the jokes were sort of with the times. And I could see my son kind of warming up to being okay with laughing. And it was neat because, yeah, go ahead. Well,
I didn't want to do a monologue. Here's the funny thing about it, though. So you're talking like they raised him up to be this certain way. They don't joke like that. Dude, your son has been in locker rooms his entire life.
Yes.
Just today, I picked up my son home from school. And when they're on Discord and things like that, they actually take quotes, funny quotes, that were said, and they record it in this like chat log, like kind of like we do in Slack.
Yeah,
dude, he's been exposed to the most inappropriate stuff. Stuff you wouldn't imagine. He's just never done it with dad before,
right? And that's the thing.
It's like when we were, like in the 80s and 90s. What were the movies like then? It wasn't Batman and Robin. It was Porky's. It was all that kind of stuff, right? And watching that with your parents would have been cringy. We weren't allowed. I never watched it with my parents. Did you ever do anything cringy with your folks when you were a kid?
No, never. Yeah. My parents were straight hours. But that's the thing. It's like it was a night where, and I never did this with my dad. So this was me just trying to do something a little different and try and make connection. But I get as a parent, it's always do this, don't do this. And a lot of times it's like, hey man, I got to make sure that, you don't get in trouble, because he's growing up in a time where things he says, things he does can get him canceled. We talk about woke culture, all these things that have been going on the last 5 years. Even in comedy, a lot of the jokes that were said this year or this week at the height of, the cancel culture, even a couple of years ago. And I don't know if we're down in the wave or coming down from it, but some of that stuff they couldn't say. And here he is processing like, okay, at a comedy show, it's okay to laugh at this stuff. It's kind of like watching Chappelle Netflix special, it's because you're allowed to laugh at things. And he always talks like comedy is satire of society. And for a while there, and I still think we might be there, but definitely for a couple of years ago, we forgot about that. We forgot that comedy is an art form. Comedy is a satire. And
it's laughing at ourselves because we can't get better unless we can acknowledge the things in society that make us, cringe about ourselves. You got to laugh at yourself, Chef.
And I was happy to share that experience with my son. It was fun. We had a great night. It was super cool. Not only was the comedy great, again, those three comedians, Chris LaBelle, Brett Forte, and Brian Callen, those comedians were great. But we had a fun time. And then, we met the comedians afterwards. They were really cool. I knew Brian Callen from a bunch of years ago. I did a charity thing at Yuck Yucks, and he was the headliner. So we had a kind of a long-standing relationship, him and I, but it was pretty awesome. Luke had a fun time. The other thing too, I had $15 in my pocket. I'm not even a gambler. I was like, Luke, you want to try winning some money? Went to the blackjack table. The kid tripled our money. I left with $20 and he left with $20. We made a couple of bucks. It was fun. He was up, he was down, but he left with $20 and he got some gas money. I got $5 out of it. We had a great father-son night. My bucket was full. I tell you, I don't need a lot, but if I can get that once in a while, one-on-one with my kids, as a middle-aged man, understanding that my kid is is pushing for independence, pushing for his own choices in life. For him to give me one night, Sheldon, it was fun. I had a
believe it, dude. That's awesome. That makes me feel good. But I think with that ready, I think we're going to take it to breakdown. Just a reminder, guys, you can find us on all of our socials. Not everywhere, but you'll find us Facebook, you'll find us YouTube, Instagram, X, Spotify, Apple podcast. And make sure, guys, you know what? Right now, I think it's time for the Chevy and Nasty show to start growing. So after you finish watching the show, during the show, smash the like button and share it to your friends. Let's see if we can build this audience here tonight. But when we come back, CFL season is wrapping up, the regular season, that is. And it was close, but let's see how Chevy and Nasty did in our picks. I think we can declare a winner. Now we got to talk about what is the prize, all that and more coming up on The Ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Experience our new fundraising event, Ignite the Night YYC, this November when we bring the fire hall to the Big 4 Roadhouse. Featuring a firefighter challenge, live entertainment, and fabulous food and drink. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities available now. Support the Calgary Firefighters Burn Treatment Society. Ignite the Night YYC this November. Help us help those who have experienced a life-changing burn injury.
Welcome back to The Ride. Sheldon, that was a great segment. And you know what? For those of you that might be joining us right now for our usual 11 o'clock, they're not even here yet. We started half an hour early. Want you to try this out. We're brought to you each week by Performance Freight Management and We Drone Real Estate Media. Sheldon, just a couple of things. You know, we run that promo splitter for the Ignite the Night for the Calgary Firefighters Burn Treatment Society, and that date is coming closer, November 8th at the Big 4. Just so you know, tickets, general admission tickets, $125 a person, includes some drink tickets. VIP tickets $250. Now, we had a meeting about it today. If you run a business, if you have clients, be a great client event to go to, or even Christmas party type event to bring your staff out. There's going to be evening will be full of entertainment, live DJ Willie Snipes. Side one is an amazing, I think it's an 11-piece band that'll be playing throughout the night. There's going to be 5 complimentary drink tasting stations, food stations and appies throughout the night, photo booth with the old antique fire truck. There's going to be some interactive games where you can win prizes, and then tons of online silent auction prizes like WestJet flights for 2 anywhere WestJet flies. Date night. This one's an awesome one. Date night a month for a year. So 12 date nights to some really nice restaurants. Rodney's Oyster House, Pat and Betty, Modern Steakhouse, and more. So I think you would like that.
Love Modern.
And tons of other barbecue prizes, tons of stuff. So again, Ignite the Night, November 8th. It's a great event, either a staff Christmas party or bring your clients. We'd love to see you there. It's for a good cause. It's for burn treatment and research into burn injuries in Southern Alberta. So thanks for giving me a chance to do that.
Yeah, well, I got some questions about that too. And this is your first year doing this, right? Because this is your second year? Because you replaced
This is our first year. This is our first year. Yeah, this is our
Well,
first year.
let me give you a couple suggestions. So the calendar night was interactive, and all the ladies would come out to that. You want to start getting the guys out there? You know what I want, Chev? I want to get you in a dunk tank, or better yet, I get to spray you with a fire hose. Like, how awesome would that be? Because for me, not being a fireman, that's what I always wonder. You see the guys, the fire hose that can lift a single guy off the ground. I want to fire a fire hose.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
I
gonna
don't even know that's safe, but that to me, that seems like something that would be like awesome just to try.
we're gonna have some firefighter activities in there. In fact, we're gonna have firefighter challenges. So we're gonna have groups of firefighters running this I guess this fire prop where the teams have to and make entry in this prop and do these firefighter skills. And you can these teams will be vying for your bets. Basically, you pick which team you think will win, and if they win, you win drinks. So for your group. So it's gonna be a fun interactive night. And yeah, we're gonna evolve this event, as you mentioned. We used to do a calendar launch event every year, was very popular. But as we progressed and evolved away from the calendar, we want to do something that's fun, that's a night out, a fun way to interact with people and give them something fun to do. So again, that's Ignite the Night. Probably spent a little more time than I would like to on it, but thank you for that. We got to move on. We got to move on. And where are we moving to, Nast? Sheld? Nast.
Well, you know what? Why don't we get to what I left it off with our CFL picks? Trey, are you still telling that? Do we have a slide for that? How did we do last week?
How did we do?
So last week, Chev went 1-2.
Jeez, I
1-2. That's not bad.
So you're the winner.
1-2, and I went 3-0.
So I can't. I can't catch you. That's it.
No, you can't catch me now. Yeah, you know what? You can't catch me now. Yeah.
Like I'm going back, and I'm just thinking like. I thought I had a strong start. I'm gonna go back to last year when we started picking in going into the CFL playoffs, and I was like on a hot streak, picking the Grey Cup winner, and I feel like I've gone downhill. Like 5 wins or 5 games difference doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually
it's huge. A lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay, so let me ask you this because I'm gonna now since I've won this, and we're gonna have another challenge coming up though.
Yeah.
You started a little slow. But then you heated up and you caught up to me.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you for 1 second, but I'm going to ask you to be honest too. It burned me when you caught up. I felt like I was the stupidest football picker ever. Like I felt like, dude, I played in the league, not as many years as you, but I should be able to spot talent. And it really bugged me when you caught up to me. Does this burn just a little bit?
Absolutely. I'm in my NFL picking pool, and the first week of that pool, I got 15 picks right. I was on top of the world. I thought I was going to reclaim my crown. And I have not hit a double-digit week since. And I watched my kids pass me. I watched guys that I burned in week 1 and 2 pass me. And now I'm sitting at like 20th in the pool. And on Sunday evenings, I am upset if I'm down. I check my app all the time. So I'm going to tell you, Sheldon, the fact that I don't have an opportunity to catch up to you, it's making me upset. Like,
so how...
The fact that, you know what makes me even more upset? The fact that there's another week. There's another week, and the picks are absolutely redundant. I won my pool a few years ago before the Super Bowl. Like, I was so far ahead of everyone that when it came time for the Super Bowl, I just sat back and relaxed and enjoyed the game because there's no one that could challenge me. And that's literally the position you're in now. Do we even do picks this week? Like, is that like...
I think we could. It's such a wasted effort. The last week of the CFL season, there's nothing at stake this week.
Nothing at stake even for me.
No team can go down, and you can't catch up. So I think what we should do, Chev, is we should talk about what you owe me for winning this challenge. And then just like a loss in the regular season, you put it behind you and you move on to the next week.
But you tell me, what do I owe you? Like,
here's what I'm thinking.
We always talk about food. Do I wear a shirt?
I thought about this. Well, I love food.
Yeah.
I love barbecue, and I love how much you love poutine. But the thing that I've kind of picked up from you is you're like a pure fries, curds, gravy kind of guy, and I like it just loaded up. So what I want out of this one is I want that Booker T's smoked brisket poutine delivered to my house for the next episode. And I get to eat it in front of you. But it's just I just want a ridiculous amount of like brisket and all the extra stuff.
Big T's, you mean, right? Or Booker T?
What I call it.
Is it Big T's?
Yeah, Big T's. Yeah, Big T's by the stadium.
Okay.
I think there's also one in Airdrie. Might even be closer to me, but
okay.
I'll take that. If you make that happen, now let's move on to the playoffs, because this regular season's for losers, right? Yeah, I won this one, but now it's all about the regular season. How do you want to do this one? Like, do we pick a Grey Cup winner here today, Do we make our picks week to week? Like, how do you think this should go down? And do we call our prize right now coming out of the gates?
I think we make picks. I was trying to read Rachel Masia's post there, so I got a little distracted. What does it say here before we go?
From Fort Worth.
Hey,
I don't know. I have some dirt on my husband.
Who's her husband?
I don't know. I think we just got to leave that one behind. I don't believe that was Brian Clark's wife. So
yeah, we'll leave that one behind. So your question again, because I was distracted by that. I was like, who's her husband and what are we dishing dirt on? So let's get back to your question. CFL playoffs. Are we making picks each week? The answer is yes. Do we have a prize at stake? The answer is no. But if it involves poutine, I'm right in it, because you know what? I'm actually jealous of what I owe you right now. I might order you a poutine and order myself one of the basic ones. Welcoming some late joiners here. Bruno and Jack Fulton, thanks for joining our show. You guys might have missed the first half hour and a bit. We started at 10:30 tonight, which is something we're going to try. But keep an eye on our social media, by the way, because if you look on Facebook, if you look on Instagram, you look on Twitter, we announced this stuff. So we announced yesterday that we were coming on early. We're trying to give guys a chance to get to bed a little bit earlier because we oftentimes go into overtime. But yeah, we'll keep it going, the picks. But if we talk about the CFL, not only is it over for me, but it's over for the Stamps. It's over for the Ticats. It's over for the Elks. But I would say that as much as it's over, like they're done, no playoffs, each team is in a little bit of a different boat. They're all trending in a different direction. Of these three, Sheldon, which one has the bigger hole to dig out of, and which one is looking good going into the next season? What are you thinking?
If I were to rank the teams, here's how I look at it. The Calgary Stampeders have been so good for so long, and with the same people in charge. I have still a lot of faith in the people in charge. But for me, like I've talked about it right now, at first I was saying that it's a quarterback issue. The Stamps have gone. They've gone all in on Jake Mayer, and they have not been developing new talent. Some bad luck guys getting injured. But I saw something interesting before the show here. Dave Dickinson's first 6 seasons as the Stampeders head coach, he was 73-29. And that's respectable, right? That includes some up years, some down years. He was 73-29. It's got to put him on track to be one of the most winningest coaches. But since 2023, the 23 season when he accepted the GM role, the last 2 seasons to this day, he's 10-24-1. And so what that tells me is the Stamps are kind of rough shape in terms of Dave is going to have to make some hard decisions on how he wants to run this franchise. When Hufnagel was in charge, there was no doubt how things were run. I'm still, and I know a lot of guys are kind of, have their beefs about Dave. I still believe in the guy, but now it's up to him. This is the first time he's been hit in his mouth in his career since maybe getting cut in the NFL. What's he going to do next? I like that he went out there and tried to do something for a quarterback. I think it was more of just a show than anything, maybe hedging some future bets on prospects. But right now, I think the team that's in the worst shape is the Calgary Stampeders, because they have to restructure fully. And that might include firing some coaches and bringing in new ones, right? Not losing coaches to attrition, but making aggressive steps forward to build the kind of organization that he wants built.
Yeah, no, I agree, Sheldon. And the other thing too is, like, where do they start? They made a big splash a couple of weeks ago bringing in PJ Walker from the NFL. They traded I don't know what they traded to get him off Toronto's neg list, but there's no guarantee that he's even going to be here next year. That little glimmer of hope right now might disappear because he's not dressing for the game this weekend because he wants to keep his NFL prospects open. And he's one call away. We saw what happened in Cleveland, and we'll talk about that in a second. We saw what happened in Cleveland, and he's one phone call away from getting an $850,000 minimum paycheck to go be a third stringer in the NFL. And I mean, that he's not going to make that in the CFL, even if he's anointed the Stamps starter going into training camp. So their quarterback problem is not solved. Their depth problem is not solved. Some of the like you mentioned, the management and coaching problems aren't solved. And I would agree, they're not trending in the right direction. The team that I think is trending in the right direction would be Hamilton. I mean,
and real quickly here, Rob Evans. No, Nick Lewis is untouchable in my books. Did you hear? Yeah, like for me, Nick Lewis, I think he's going to be part of the solution going forward. He's just going to improve. He's just going to improve as a head coach. Like, look at Reggie Bagleton. This week he was announced the president's ring, and I know I'm taking this off track again. Sorry, Chev, but Bagleton came out and talked about Nick's influence on him, how he's got him more involved in the blocking game. He continues to make him better. I think Nick Lewis is good.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your Tiger.
No, Tiger Cats. All I got to say is, they went on a run there since Labor Day. They went on a run for about 5 games straight where every week they were winning. Bo Levi Mitchell got his mojo back, and it was no more evident this week than against the Stamps. He came in, he blew them out of the water. It looked like it was personal. It looked like the old Bo. And I think with what we saw when we were paying attention to Hamilton, when they brought Chris Jones over to take over the defense, they made a couple of tweaks personnel-wise, I could see them only going up. Like, they are content. To me, they look like a stronger team than Ottawa. They're just the victim of their early season record. Like, Ottawa doesn't finish. Like, Ottawa's going to be in the playoffs this season. But if I was going to put some money on a team, if all things being equal where they are right now, to me, Hamilton's a stronger team. They're just a victim of that early season record.
So let me ask you this. So we saw glimmers of the old Bo, but Bo is getting old.
Yeah.
Like, do you think, because from time to time, Henry Burris did it, right? No doubt. Henry Burris's career, had his peaks and valleys. He had some good years and bad years. Probably his best years were at the end. I think his last Grey Cup championship, he's 41 years old. Do you think Bo's the kind of guy that can rally back and get that, though? Because if he's not, the one thing that Hamilton hasn't addressed is the quarterback position. Or maybe they do. They're back. I don't even know the backup's name right now, right? But
they have Tua Tagovailoa's brother there.
Well, yeah.
I think Bo, listen, I called it since he left. I think he needed to heal. I think he looks like he's firing on all cylinders now. And Bo's not a mobile quarterback. He's not a Buck Pierce or Travis Lulay that will use their feet, and if they get hit again, they get knocked out. Bo is a pocket quarterback with mobility, and he chooses to be in the pocket, and he's got good pocket presence. And I think that type of quarterback, just like a Ricky Ray, you talk about Cavillo, you talk about Ricky Ray, you talk about Henry Burris. Yeah. Bo is kind of in between those guys. And I think just for that reason alone, he has longevity if he could stay healthy. His issues were shoulders, and he hurt himself on a goal line play early on in the year. But look at him now. I just think they're trending in the right direction. And Trey asked, what about Edmonton?
Well, because that's my team for the team that's kind of on the upwards.
I think they're in the middle. I think Hamilton's up. I said, for me, Edmonton, they got to make some hard choices before we can decide what they are. They have an interim head coach. They have 2 quarterbacks, and they haven't figured out which one is the guy to get them to the promised land. If they make the wrong choice in either of those, they could go down just as much as they could go up.
They also have new stable ownership, a private ownership, one guy making the call, right? In terms of setting up a team. And he's built he's built companies before. Will a little bit of that rub off on this? And it's hard to say because, I guess I just called Bo Levi Mitchell old, but I think, McLeod Methil Thompson is older than him. Is he not? Like he's got to be 36.
They might be in the same
Trevor Harris playing some of the best football of his career. He's 38.
Yeah.
So maybe Bo. I'm going to be curious to see what Edmonton can do though, because it seems like their O-line in the ground game offensively, they really started getting some momentum this year. It's all going to be about how they're going to address defense. If Chris Jones was nothing but their defensive coordinator, I think they'd be having a lot more success than they did this year. But that didn't happen. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see.
I just think the West is a little stronger. It's going to be a tougher hill for Edmonton to climb. Calgary is definitely behind Edmonton, but if there's a team of those 3 that can challenge for a playoff spot next year, I think it's Hamilton in the East.
Do you know what I think it is, Chev? I think it's who gets a cast-off quarterback from the BC Lions.
Yeah, and that's gonna. And who is the cast-off quarterback from the BC Lions? Which brings us to the Chevy and Nasty Blitz. It's Blitz time, Sheldon.
All right. Oh yeah, we don't have a sound for that yet, do we?
Well, I don't know if we have a sound for it, but we have got kind of like a nifty little graphic. There it is.
Oh, there you go. Imagine those like DJ foghorns in the background. We're gonna have that next week.
There's a little.
So let's start with a blitz, and let's start with Vernon Adams. Last week, 385 yards in a dominant comeback performance. He's all but secured his starting role going into the playoffs. But that leaves Nathan Rourke, the guy they brought in mid-season, paid him the most money, maybe not in CFL history, but certainly the highest paid player in the CFL right now, is back sitting on the bench. Chev, is this going to be the ultimate solution to get him to the promised land this season, or is it going to mess with that locker room? You can't serve two masters, and they've tried to do both.
You know what? I think if I'm looking at it, it looks like they're back in early season form with Vernon Adams at the helm. I don't think this splits the locker room. I think the locker room is, I read a couple of the reports. They're behind Vernon Adams. He was the guy that led them into the season. He was the guy that didn't leave them. He was the guy that produced some big career numbers for some of the receivers there, like Justin McInnes. And now he looks like he's back in fine form. So I don't think it's a locker room distraction, but it sure as heck is going to make for some compelling discussion after the season, depending on what happens with the BC Lions. You talked about who's going to get the BC Lions cast off quarterback. Well, who is going to be the BC Lions? Like, are we already assuming that Vernon Adams is on the way out because of the money that Nathan Rourke signed? I don't know. I don't think you can assume that. I think that if you're the BC Lions, you got to take the guy that wins for you. And yeah, there's a lot that was stacked against Nathan Rourke coming in and being successful this year, which is why I don't think the locker room is split. But I tell you, as far as Vernon Adams takes them into the playoffs, and if they make the wrong choice next year, that locker room could be split after that, for sure.
For sure. I agree. My take on that one, I've been in a locker room where it got split at the end of the year when things started getting funny with some of your guys. As long as these guys have faith in their coaching staff and their GMs, the guys that sign contracts there, if you feel your organization is doing what's necessary to win, then they're going to be behind whatever decision it is. They've got two great quarterbacks. My thing is, it's got to be Vernon Adams at this point. Nathan Rourke, it's almost unfair. He came in, he started after one practice. He's never been able to adjust from 4-down football to 3-down football. Yeah. Nathan Rourke needs a training camp under his belt. He needs an offseason to build relationships with some of these guys. He needs to get fully infiltrated back into the CFL system. And I think he's going to be a hell of a quarterback. If they decide to go with Vernon Adams, I think Nathan Rourke's got to be sucked up by the Calgary Stampeders, who probably has the most room on their cap because he's one of the lower paid starting quarterbacks in the CFL, as far as I know. I think Calgary Stampeders would be the one who should be the most aggressive to get either one of those guys. I'd be happy with Vernon Adams. He's done nothing but win since he's been in BC.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Still in the world of quarterbacks, though, on Sunday Night Football, New York Jets quarterback, the great Aaron Rodgers, was seen picking his nose and eating boogers and then losing to the Steelers. On Monday Night Football, the following night, Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was seen popping a Zin or an upper decky, or what do my kids call it? They call it a Zinachino. That's what they call it. And then losing to the Baltimore Ravens. My question to you is, which quarterback would you rather have leading your team? Baker Zinachino or Aaron Booger Rodgers?
Listen, I'll tell you what, Aaron Rodgers has won a Super Bowl, but there's something about being labeled as a booger eater that is tough enough to survive Sunday Night Football and the media that goes along with it. Chev, you know this. In the locker room, my locker was next to Henry Burris for 3 years. If I looked over and I saw him eating boogers, I don't care how many games he won. The guy's a booger eater. I know he's got a lot left in his game, but that one really bothers me. Versus when I look at Baker's Zins, dude, remember Jim McMahon, famously won Super Bowl, whatever, with the Chicago Bears. Then he went off to the Eagles. And this one play, he dropped back, and he always had that big dip, right? Because back in our day, guys didn't have Zins. They smoked cigarettes at halftime and dropped Zins in. Maybe that was the 80s, and dropped chews in. He got hit by Herschel Walker on a play action pass and swallowed his dip. He got sick on the field and had to be dragged off. He swallowed his chew. But I'll tell you what, I will take a chew swallower over a booger eater any day of the week.
Yeah, any day of the week. And Aaron Rodgers is getting You know, we've been on him the last couple of weeks, you know, with the Jets firing their coach, hiring Devontae Adams. It's been the same record. It's actually been a worse record than when they had Sam Darnold or even Zach Thomas as their, is that Zach Thomas? Zach Taylor as their quarterback. Trey's always going to correct my name. So Baker Mayfield,
sure.
if I'm just looking at quarterback for quarterback, Baker Mayfield's having a fantastic season. Took over after Tom Brady left. Unfortunately, he lost a couple of weapons on the week. Zach Wilson for the Jets. Baker Mayfield is going to have a big test, though. He's going to need those ins because he lost two of his big receivers on Monday Night Football. Let's go to the next one. Sheldon, this is your question.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Judge, Yankees versus the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, huge story in Japan. Maybe one of the biggest watched World Series of all times, and the tickets, they say, are going for Taylor Swift like dollars right now. Have you watched, and are you going to watch?
Have I? So the answer is well, have I watched? I guess I watched.
Have you been are you into this whole thing? Have you been following this?
You know what? I haven't really been into it because I'm not a baseball guy. I haven't been a baseball guy since the Expos left Montreal. I think I've mentioned that several times. And yeah, Trey puts up $1,000 for the cheapest seats per game. But I haven't been a baseball fan since the Expos left town, and it's been hard. But I have been following a bit because our good friend Bruno is a lifelong diehard Yankees fan, and we were sitting watching my son's football game on Thursday when the Yankees were beating Cleveland and then turned around and lost. And then on Friday night, as I mentioned, when I was out with my son, I was watching the Yankees game on TV, and we were actually paying attention. But the hype surrounding this, I had been hearing about this all year. Imagine if we can get a Yankees Dodgers World Series, the history between, you know, the Dodgers having left Brooklyn and the East versus West, and the two biggest names in the sport coming head to head. I do think I'll be tuning in. In fact, anytime I ever watch baseball, it is during the World Series, and there's something so tense about those at bats. I don't know if they crank up the crowd noise, but when I watch World Series baseball, it's definitely different than watching in season. So I will pick it up. We got the predictions flowing in here. Yeah. We got a lot of predictions here. Trey says Yankees in 6. AC joins us right after his show, AC Sports Live. He's on every week. He said Dodgers in 6, I believe. And AC, who lives in LA, says he was going to go to a game and they wanted nosebleed seats. Is that $1,350 US?
Wow.
US.
That's a lot of pesos, AC. Oh my God.
Yeah, you can't find cheap seats in the in the game time map. Sheldon, let's move on. Deshaun Watson signed a precedent-setting $230 million 5-year guaranteed contract 2 years ago when he signed with the Browns from the Houston Texans after running into trouble with the league. Big money, but so far in 3 seasons, he's only had 19 starts. His numbers have been underwhelming, and now this weekend we saw a brutal Achilles tear. He's going to be out at least for a year, maybe a year and a half. Not everyone has like voodoo doctors like Aaron Rodgers. Is this the worst contract ever in pro sports? Or do you think he's going to bounce back and have a bounce back year next year and earn some of that money? Because this year he's got like a $32 million cap hit, or a 25. Next year it jumps to $72 million cap hit, which accounts for 25% of the Cleveland Browns salary cap next year.
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how that works, because if you part with him now, if you cut him or release him, it's somewhere between what I see, $46 and $98.6 million to get out of this contract. Bottom line, it's not because he got hurt, it was a bad contract. You're playing stupid games and taking stupid chances when you take a guy with so much, who's already damaged goods and hasn't done anything on the path of redemption. He came out hot out of college. He really did. He looked like he was going to be the next coming. But, the last 3 years, it's been nothing but controversy and injury. How do you pay a guy this kind of dollars? When not just a bad brand, his brand went bad, his body's gone bad. I don't know. I think if right now, if I'm in that front office, I am looking for how do I get myself out of this, but I don't think they can.
No, I don't think they can.
The fans don't want them to.
Yeah, and this is the problem. We talk about the fans, and we see some comments. We're going to talk about the fans in a minute, but yeah, you, I mean, we all know the circumstances of Deshaun Watson's legal woes and his suspension in the NFL, but you don't blame the guy for trying. You don't blame the guy for taking it, but you sure as hell understand that if he doesn't live up to it, he's going to get flack, and the team's going to get flack. And the Cleveland Browns, man, they are the can't get out of their own way team. From the drafting of the Johnny Manziels to the countless personnel decisions that have just been, they're in the cellar for a reason. Glimmers of hopes, but yet they do things like this, signing a guy that he had a MVP like season when he was in Houston, but they sure bought a lot of baggage with that guaranteed money, and now
a lot of baggage.
Unfortunately, it's gone sideways on them. And we mentioned the fans. The fans are mad. The fans are angry. Now, say what you want about the guy. Say what you want about his performance. Say what you want about the money he was given, and say what you want about how he's delivered on that. The guy gets hurt, tears his Achilles heel, tears his Achilles on the weekend. Fans are cheering, and we saw this, and we're going to talk about this when we get back. Like, is that? I mean, we know that's not an appropriate spot as a response. Have you ever seen anything like that, Sheldon? Have you ever seen anything?
Truthfully, yeah, I have seen stuff like that before. Fans can be brutal. We won't get it. If you want to save that for after the break.
Yeah, let's take a break. Let's take a break and talk about
the other side. There is a fan side of this thing too, right?
Guys, you know what? This is awesome. We love seeing all the comments. We're going to talk about this because obviously the contract's one thing, but the humanity of the situation and sort of the interaction there is another thing. But we are flying through this ride, Sheldon. I know we had a plan. We haven't gone off script, but we have gone a little bit off script. So keep following us. Keep liking us on our social medias. Tell your friends, as Sheldon said. Spread the word. When we post the live event coming on Facebook or YouTube, share it on your Facebook page. Share it with your friends. Ask them to say, hey, we like this show. It's called The Ride. Come and check it out. They're on at 10:30s on Tuesday nights. We'll get back. We'll talk about crappy fans and how they interact with crappy players.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Experience our new fundraising event, Ignite the Night YYC, this November when we bring the fire hall to the Big 4 Roadhouse. Featuring a firefighter challenge, live entertainment, and fabulous food and drink. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities available now. Support the Calgary Firefighters Burn Treatment Society. Ignite the Night YYC this November. Help us help those who have experienced a life-changing burn injury.
Welcome back. It's The Ride. Sheldon's getting settled there. Remember, we're brought to you each week by Performance Freight Management and We Drone Real Estate Media. Before the break, we talked about the Deshaun Watson injury, the contract, but then also the reaction in game towards the injury. And AC Anthony Cobbs, AC Sports Live, he writes, his Eagles buddies were just as brutal towards the opposition. Like when Michael Irvin broke his neck in Philly, his comrades cheered, and then they booed Santa Claus. Yeah, Eagles. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
I played in the old Vet Stadium in Philadelphia. I remember you drive to Philly in the Cowboys bus. They throw batteries, like the D batteries,
like Duracells.
Yeah, the big D batteries. They throw them at the bus when you're driving by, and yeah, Eagles fans are renowned as terrible fans. But you know what? I even get it that you cheer, and not that I endorse it, but I get that you cheer the injury of a rival. Like, yeah, you're gonna cheer Michael Irvin's neck being broke, but this is a different situation. This is Browns fans cheering the injury to their own starting quarterback. Like, this guy is what was promised as the face of their franchise. First of all, whether he's healthy or not, can he ever come back from this? Like, if you're a fan, you're a court. Like, we talk about Henry Burris. We've talked about Henry Burris, and we've seen Henry's taken some pretty bad flack in his time. In fact, he's probably taken a lot more flack than some of the quarterbacks that have played since.
Because of where he played too, right? Because of the fan base where he played.
Yeah, but to say going in at halftime and fans booing him for his performance are one thing. There's not a Stampeders fan out there that would boo the guy if he got hurt. In fact, I don't think there's the boom if he got hurt. But in this case, this guy got hurt. Okay, put his body on the line for his team, for those fans, for that city. Yes, he's making big bucks. Tears his Achilles. Now, maybe the fans didn't know that he tore his Achilles, but they knew he was injured. Can you ever come back from that as a player, like emotionally, like say, you know what, like all the noise that he's going to hear this week while he's laying in a hospital bed, he's going to read the reports. He's going to see the videos of his teammates defending him. Like, what does it say here? He does pretty much everything right. He's been a model citizen through college and most of the pros. That's Myles Garrett that mentioned that. Do you think he can bounce back from this, first of all? And then we'll talk about fans.
Has he been a model citizen?
I don't know. That's what his teammates said. Do we have the video on that, Trey? I'm not sure if you have the video on Myles Garrett. I know you have the quote, but yeah, he had his teammates came to his side, which obviously you want them to. So let's roll the video of what Myles Garrett had to say.
It was harder with the reaction that the fans gave. Whether it's an opponent that goes down or one of our own, we don't boo. We don't boo the guys that are injured on the field, especially, with the extent when the card comes out. We should be ashamed of ourselves, as Browns and as fans to boo anyone and their downfall. Could be season-altering, career-altering injury. Man, it's not perfect. He doesn't need to be. None of us are expected to be perfect. Can't judge him for what he does, off the field or on the field, because I can't throw stones from my glass house. But we need to do better. We need to do better on the football field, and we need to do better as fans for having some empathy for a man who's doing the best he can and did the best he can up to this point. And we have to be better.
What does that make you? Does that alter your opinion of Browns fans?
Ultimately, everybody's human, and they're disappointed just like we are. But we have to be better than that as people. There's levels to this. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and you don't boo anybody being injured, and you don't celebrate anyone's downfall.
Yeah, well said. With AC here, terrible humans. None of us are without sin. And yeah, you know what, AC, I do agree with that call. Fans.
And I think if I'm going to jump in here, I think he's referring. We might have a little bit of chatter going on. I think he might be referring to Jamin's comment a little higher up when he says, Jamin says, when the guy is a terrible human being, I'm okay with the reaction. So yeah, obviously this is polarizing. First of all, this is polarizing.
Polarizing for sure, and you can tell in the last 10 years of society, we've gotten more polarized. The good guys are really good, and the bad guys are really bad, based off of what side of the fence we're looking from. It's almost like we've gone back to the old WWF or Stampede Wrestling from the 1980s, where where you just play into this stuff. But at the end of the day, yeah, this is a guy that is doing what he can on the field for his team, and regardless of whether you like him, whether he's being successful, whether he's your guy or he's not, to cheer when a guy's injured, that is really bad taste. And kind of to follow up on your point, can he come back from this? he's going to have to do a lot of soul searching on this one. Like for me personally, I don't think he can. I think at this point, you can come back if you're so driven by vengeance, by redemption, by trying to make it right. But I don't know if that's the modern football player, the modern pro athlete in general.
Well, and I think he's going against an entire fan base at this point, his own fan base, right? I think this is one of those cases where even if he heals up, it's going to be fresh start. But he can't return to the Browns as AC. You know, we're looking at this. You're breaking it down. Unfortunately, he was too much of a target. You know, whether it's the contract, whether it's his past, whether it's his performance, and now the injury and the team's performance, he's too much of a target, and the fans had too much of a reaction to his injury that there's no way you can. I can't see forgiveness from him towards the fan base, even though it might have been a few fans.
Let me ask you: you've been injured before, right? You've missed substantial time before.
Yeah, I know.
You know what it takes to come back from. Yes. You were stabbed through the lung.
Yeah. No,
right?
I know what it takes.
And can you imagine if the whole stadium, if the whole fan base turned on you?
Yeah.
What it would take to come back from that and rebuild. I mean,
if I'd come back, I'd come back. I would come back. There's the coming back part's not the problem. I'm just not coming back.
You'd be driven by this. Coming out almost out of spite and vengeance and redemption.
I'm going to sign with the rival for $1, and I'm going to come back and put it down their throat. That's what I'm going to do if I'm him. I'm going to go play for I don't know. Well, there's no one in that conference that needs him, but I'm going to go somewhere where I can beat them the next year. That's what I'm going to do, because right now it's a one-man mission. He has his teammates' support for sure. He has his teammate, but he doesn't have the fan base's support. So the fans went too far. Sheldon, have you ever seen it? Because you said it before the break. You said
of course. I played with the Riders in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
And for any of you that are old enough, do you remember? We used to call him good old Paul McCallum. Paul McCallum was the legendary kicker for the Saskatchewan Riders, and I think I left Saskatchewan in 2003, and it was that same season, 2003 or 2004. They were in a position to advance in the Western semifinals to the Grey Cup.
Yep.
It became an overtime game. Paul McCallum, I can't remember if it was to win the game or to tie the game, but Paul McCallum comes on to kick something like a 20-yard field goal at the end of the game. It should be an automatic. He lines up, he swings the leg, and he misses.
Yeah.
He misses. And Regina, Saskatchewan, I know we've got some of our American friends here joining us. How would you equate Regina? Somewhere between probably Philly fans and Raiders fans, just hardcore football fans that don't accept anything but winning, even though they lose most of the time, right? Yeah. But the next day, after he missed that kick, it was the next day, a truck pulls up to his front lawn, a load full of manure, and it dumps it. But instead of dumping it on his lawn, he dumped a load of manure onto his neighbor's lawn. And that was the end of Paulie McCallum in Saskatchewan, right? He went on to BC. I think he had like 7-10 more great years with the BC.
Oh, yeah. Lions. He won a couple of
Grey Cups. The guy was a stud that missed one kick, but the entire city turned on him. And after that point, there is no going back. Yeah, I mean, we aren't wrestlers. It's not like you have, what do they call it in wrestling? What do you call the guy?
The heel and the baby face.
These aren't
the bad guy. The heel's the bad guy. The baby face is the good guy, right?
You know, you look at the NFL. Is he a perfect citizen? No, he is not. Did Michael Vick mess up? Yeah, Michael Vick did, but he can come back from that. There's redemption stories in people's lives, but it's not going to be with a team that turn their back on you, because it's just too hard to come back. It takes too much focus, and when they write you off, you just become the motivation to go support the next team.
Yeah, no, for sure. Fans can take it far. You see the pictures here. The most telling one is, the Vancouver Canucks riots. We talked about that last year in the playoffs. When the Vancouver Canucks, when they lost the Boston Bruins in Stanley Cup, they tore the city down, and you've seen that.
Vancouver always tears their city down.
A couple years ago, Toronto Argonauts leaving Hamilton, and John Murphy, GM of the Toronto Argonauts, gets into it with the fans and starts a fist fight. He, that fan and that fan / player interaction is closer than ever, not just on the field of play, but even through social media these days, right? Like you get to know them a little bit more. We talk about that NHL special. You get to see a little bit more into their lives behind the curtains, and people feel like they have more of a right to an opinion on your life based on
they know you.
They know you. Yeah, based on what they put out there. Andres Escobar was murdered in 1994 after scoring an own goal that contributed to Colombia's elimination from the FIFA World Cup. Yeah, that was too far. I would say soccer fans go a little too far. They definitely have been known to go too far. I was in San Diego one year for a preseason game between the Raiders and the Chargers. And I'll tell you what, you want to see gladiatorial matches, just sit in the stands for a Chargers Raiders match. In fact, I think that when people who don't have season tickets to the Chargers back in the day in San Diego wanted to watch a Raiders game, they were forced to buy 3 different game tickets because they wouldn't sell single game tickets to Raider fans because they just needed to avoid that type of
it's like in camping where you don't give a camping site to somebody that's just there for 3 nights because they're just going to trash it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, speaking of the Riders and close calls in the playoffs, I actually had an opportunity to watch the 13th Man documentary on Amazon Prime, and that is the one on the 2010 Rough Riders 13th Man. Well, it was really on the 13th Man, which is the Proud Rider fans, but it kind of interweaves that 13th Man penalty, especially right at the beginning. It starts. It's a great
how'd they do on that? Because I was curious. Was it did they do a good job of the documentary? Did they bring you back there? Was it well done?
You know what? It was super well done. And for anyone that doesn't know, like I would encourage like AC and Rubio, who are American friends watching her, but guys that don't watch CFL football, to watch that documentary. It really kind of describes what CFL football is, what Canadiana is, and really what a diehard fan base those Riders are. Like when you try to describe it, you watch that documentary and it's kind of enveloped around this Grey Cup game where the Saskatchewan Roughriders should have all but won because Montreal missed the game-winning kick, but they had an extra man on the field and Montreal got to kick it and then win the Grey Cup. And it was really that moment of like pure elation for the Riders and where the Alouettes were.
But there's a flag.
Yeah, but there's a flag on the play, and some people lost their jobs after that.
Do you remember the name of the player of the 13th Man on the field?
I don't remember who the player was. Do you remember who it was?
I can't remember. It was someone Lucas or something like that. But I do remember this. Unfortunately, he was number 31.
Yeah.
So all I could think about after the game is I'm number 31 and I was the 13th man, and I walk into the locker room after. And I walk into the bathroom and the mirrors. And what do I see as a reverse 31? I see 13. A reminder I was the 13th man.
Yeah,
dude,
that's terrible.
Like, isn't that the worst? I've had a penalty on a play that has hurt the team, but I've never cost us a game. I could only imagine what it's like to cost a championship. It's got to be hard.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's that would be tough. But yeah, when we talk about fans, we talk about all the things that crazy fans do, streaking on the fields. There's a stalker fans, tons of stuff. But sometimes fans will get you in the most inconvenient times.
Did you find the picture? Did you send it off to trade?
Yeah, I got the picture.
Oh, guys. I'm gonna let Chevy totally set up the story, but this was I think a couple of years after I retired. Chevy went off. You're still playing with the Stampeders, and guys, we talked about the savageness of the Saskatchewan Roughrider fans, and Chevy had one of those moments that you don't hear the commentators talk about on TV, but trust me, guys, it does happen. You're sitting there on the field waiting to go on to play, and you have to take a leak. Chevy, take the story from there.
Okay, so it's funny. We're in Saskatchewan. We're talking lots about Saskatchewan. We're in Saskatchewan, and here it is. It's cold. It was 2006, I believe, or 2007. I had to go to the bathroom really bad, and it was one of those things where, for me, it's my ultimate nightmare, especially being a long snapper, having that pressure in my bladder that's distracting me from my job. And I was like, oh, please, I don't want to go on the field, but I had to piss so bad. And I remember asking a few guys, every guy had a strategy. You go to Jeff Pelon, he's like, oh, I just pissed in my pants. And you ask Sandro DeAngelis, he's like, oh, I just put a cape on and I pee.
Wait,
and one
did
guy's,
you consider pissing in your pants?
I considered every option. And then one guy's like, well, just go onto the landing and the stairs. You could go pee there. Everyone pees there. I'm like, so all these options, and I'm trying them. I'm like, I can't do this. And then one guy's like, well, there's a public bathroom just through the dugout. And the old Mosaic Stadium had a dugout you had to walk under. And then you go to the public bathroom. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I go to the security guard that was kind of blocking off the sidelines. I'm like, listen, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So he comes with me, and I still talk to this guy. From that day, I met this guy. We become friends. I used to visit him before every game. Charlie Rouse, if you're listening, Charlie, you brought me to the bathroom, but then Charlie sold me out. I go into the bathroom. It's right before halftime, and it's jammed with Rider fans. Like jammed. Like Sheldon, like it was packed. And I'm trying to make my way to a stall, and Charlie leaves me at the door, and they're all booing me, right? So here I am in the stall trying to, don't boo a guy in an injury. This is, let me set this picture up. This is not even it. So this picture was taken, and I'll explain the picture. But here I am in the stall. Okay. It's full. This picture is afterwards. I'm going to tell you what this picture is, but I'm in the stall full of Rider fans, guys climbing over like while I'm trying to piss. I got my pads on. I'm trying to pull down. I have multiple layers of compression shorts and long johns. I can't even get my pants over my wiener, and I'm trying to pull it out and pee. And these guys are mocking me the whole time. Well, I had the biggest case of stage fright. I couldn't piss. I pull up my pants. I run back outside. I'm on the sideline. I'm dying. Like, oh, I can't do it. Lo and behold, I didn't have to pee. I go to the locker room at halftime. I have the world's longest pee. Like, picture Austin Powers when he comes out of freezing and you're just peeing for like 10 minutes. I peed. Then I peed again right before I went out because I was like, I got to make sure I'm empty. And I'm good right up until the end of the fourth quarter. Of course, I don't know why the Seals were. I had to pee again.
Dude, I've never heard this. I've never heard this version of the story. I always hear the condensed version.
No, so now I got to pee again. So I'm like, Charlie, let's go. So I go to the bathroom, and this time it's less. There's less people, right? The drunk Rider fans have either pissed themselves or they're gone because we were beating them. But I'm in the and now I can make it to the urinal. So here I am, and you can see there's a Rider fan next to me because there's some green in the background, and someone snapped a picture. Someone snapped. So this is me actually taking a piss. I didn't have stage fright here. I'm at the urinal, and someone snapped a picture. And this was 2006. So the camera phones weren't necessarily in everyone's hands. It was before the iPhone. I'm pretty sure the iPhone came around.
That's a BlackBerry or some other flip phone for sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, this is the funny thing. The guy who took the picture was actually one of the groundskeepers at Calgary's McMahon Stadium. Tyler Quentin Barrington, if you're listening, he took the picture, and I didn't know. And then I get home after the game. He's like, hey, Chev, I saw you in the bathroom with all your gear on. Like, and I don't know him well, but well enough that he sent me the picture. So that's how I got that picture. It's actually a Stamps fan that because he's a great Stamps fan, took a picture of me while I was having a piss in Mosaic Stadium. But from that moment, I realized that I never want to pee in a public bathroom at a football stadium right before halftime.
At least not with your helmet and your pads on, dude.
Or
you were wearing your helmet.
Yeah. But I did make a friend for life, Charlie Rouse. I get a Christmas card from him every year. He tells me about his grandkids and all that. We just became friends. Amazing. And it's such a good CFL story, right?
Yes, CFL story. Only in the CFL.
Only in the CFL. And so, yeah, that was kind of a good kind of story because it definitely is a good one to tell on the show.
I'd like to hear from AC Sports what happened to an opposing team at playing at UCLA, walking into that building and peeing with the fans in the stadium. Dude, I've never heard of anything like that. I love that story.
Awesome. Well, listen, Sheldon, we got to take a break. Guys, thanks for being with us. We got a little bit more left on this ride. Please continue to follow us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X. The next day, tomorrow, for those of you that missed the first half, this is all going to be available for download on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, you can get on YouTube and Facebook if you want to check it out. Guys, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to finish this ride off, get to where we want to go in style.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Experience our new fundraising event, Ignite the Night YYC, this November when we bring the fire hall to the Big 4 Roadhouse. Featuring a firefighter challenge, live entertainment, and fabulous food and drink. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities available now. Support the Calgary Firefighters Burn Treatment Society. Ignite the Night YYC this November. Help us help those who have experienced a life-changing burn injury.
I blame Brian Clark.
Yeah, it's got to be Brian Clark or that flyby commenter we had earlier. Guys, welcome back to the ride with Chevy and Nasty, episode 48. For those of you that have a few more years on you than our producer Trey, you might remember when we used to have that radio show running on the Fan 960 for all those years. We had a little segment that we used to call Duds and Studs, where Chevy and I would look back on the week and see who the real winners of the week were and who the losers were. And I think this is something we've got to bring back, Chev.
Yeah, I actually think it was called Studs and Duds, but sure, let's bring.
What I call it? Duds and Studs and Duds and Studs?
Yeah, you call it Duds and
Dude,
Studs.
it's been like 11 years.
Studs and Duds are back, guys. We do this. We each pick a stud of the week. We each pick a dud. It could be anything for the world of sports, pop culture, anything we want, because we're Chevy and Nasty. We do what we want. So, Nasty, am I going to start with the stud of the week?
Let's start with it. Yeah, let's start with your stud. And this is a big one.
Yeah, this is a big one. It's we want to pay tribute to one of our brothers. Our stud of the week, for the first time on the new Chevy and Nasty, the ride with Chevy and Nasty. Our stud of the week is none other than Rob Evans. After many years, Rob retires from Calgary 911. Look at that handsome gentleman. Rob, we want to wish you a big congratulations. We talked a little bit about it last week when you let us know, but we want to officially recognize you as our stud of the week. We know you did your last call this week. You put the headset down, and we know you're still serving the community of Redwood Meadows as the fire chief out there, but that was your last night for Calgary, or for dispatch, and we sure appreciate your service. So Rob Evans, our stud of the week. Nasty, what's yours?
I see those medals and I see that white hat, and I know what that means. My stud of the week, guys, this is out of a town in Ontario, Springfield, Ontario. A guy was driving off to work when he gets a frantic call from his wife. Our house is on fire. I just jumped out of the second story window, and our kids are still inside. 2 toddlers, 1.5 and 2 years old. He turns his car around. He flies back in there, and he just bolts into the house as smoke is streaming out. You guys probably saw this on CTV News. There's smoke streaming out of the house. He bolts into the house, runs upstairs, not knowing what he's going to find. He found his kids. He runs down the stairs, and he comes out of the house on fire. He's physically burning on fire and does a roll, and neighbors help put him out. But the good news is he saved the kids. They all have burns over 40 to 50% of their body, which I thought was topical, talking about Rob Evans and talking about the Burn Treatment Society. But this guy is a literal hero, put himself in harm's way. And I think it's something that all of us as dads just hope that we have the fortitude to do. And I think we all believe we can. And this guy is an example of what men do in a bad situation. just an absolute hero. They've got a long way to go. If you guys want to look them up, you can find the you find the pages to donate and to help them out. They've got a long road in front of them, but they're alive, and that's what counts. These two beautiful boys have a chance to live another day.
Thanks to, who is that? Cornelius Woolney.
Cornelius Wolk, Springfield, Ontario.
I love that one. I love it. That was a good one. It's not from the world of sports. It's world from what's going on. But yeah,
my heart, Chevy.
Two deserving studs this week. And now we go to our duds. The duds can be a contentious issue, but I'm going to start with my dud of the week, Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown took the stage this weekend in Pennsylvania to represent the Republican Party and Trump and Vance. Now, listen, I've got my opinions about Trump, but the Republican Party, I have a lot of conservative views. I'm not 100% liberal. I have a lot of conservative views. I don't agree with Trump. I don't like Trump. But when you're putting a guy like Antonio Brown, the same guy that walked out on his team, the same guy that's had a number of issues, the same guy, listen, when the Republican Party, which one of their core values is pro-life, okay, which means that we keep a child at all costs, you tend to think that in that equation, they also have the keep the family unit together viewpoint, and keep that child that you will not abort in this world, keep them supported. And when you put a guy like Antonio Brown that owes probably, I think they say, in excess of $30,000 of child support to his children that have been capped, you're putting the wrong guy up there. I just think that, my dud of the week is Antonio Brown being on that stage. I don't think he had any business being there. I know what politics is now. It's a collection of several celebrities endorsing really crooked and bad politicians. But come on, Trump. Come on, Republican Party. Could you have found someone with a little bit more scruples to represent the ideals that you represent? So that's my dud of the week. I know Shell may or may not agree. I don't know. Do you agree with my dud?
Well, I do agree with you. It's not the best choice, but we just talked about redemption stories. I'm going to call an audible here. And my dud of the week is going to be P. Diddy, who's been representing the Democratic Party of the United States for the last 10 years. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. But P. Diddy was a big supporter. I know what they were doing here. Yeah, not a great guy. He's $30,000 in child support was actually 2 months for this one girl. Everybody else he was current on. But he did go to jail. And he was going through some bad times, and he's not a great dude. But my dad, Chev, I'm going to finish this a little bit lighter, and I'm going to finish in the land down under in Australia. Guys, this is where we're going to talk about keeping things in perspective. Matilda Hunter was off on a hiking trip, camping trip out in the mountains and the cliffs and the rocks somewhere in Australia, where her boyfriend drops a phone and it falls in this crack down this crevasse that goes down pretty deep, and she's not sure how deep it goes. So she says, I'll get your phone. And she goes down there. Guys, for the next 7 hours, she's hung upside down in this rock crevice, almost risked her life. They had to bring out special equipment to split the rock, expand it out just to get her out. All for the sake of saving a cell phone. Chevy, have you ever lost a cell phone? We've talked about forgetting it at home. It's disastrous. I've lost a cell phone. It's the worst thing in the world, except for that. I see those feet sticking up between those two rocks. That I would not do well in that situation.
The irony of this situation, Sheldon, is like in the last, when you picked your stud, you said that's what men do for their families. They go down and they get the kids, and well, you know what? That's what women do for their men who drop their phones. They go down in a crevasse because they can fit. But unfortunately, she couldn't get out.
So, that's the agreement. We reach the high stuff and go do Bernie stuff, and you guys go to rock caves with. And this Australia, what kind of spiders are in there, dude? I'd be horrified.
Yeah, I'm laughing at this from so many angles. I know we don't have a lot of time, but first of all, you asked me if that ever happened. You know what? That didn't happen. But the other day, I was changing the garbage in my bathroom garbage can, and I had my earbuds in. I was talking on the phone, and as I was changing the garbage can, that happens to be right next to my toilet, my earbud freaking fell off and right in the toilet. I had just
Oh.
cleaned the toilet and I was like, ah, and I was talking to Brittany and I literally went in with my hand. I felt around because those earbuds, I grabbed my earbud. I was like, I don't know if it works. I rinsed it. I shoved it right back in.
Chev,
It worked.
let me set your mind at ease. I saw a
It
study
worked.
once that your
It
kitchen
worked.
sink,
Yeah.
your kitchen sink and countertop is dirtier than your toilet bowl is.
Yeah, but that's
Especially,
that,
but that's
that's
it's
the kitchen
kind of
sink of
gross.
someone that doesn't have three boys. But yeah, that's why I'm laughing. But she went in. You know what, Sheldon? She would be my stud for going in and saving my phone and all the pictures that I take and all the wonderful stuff that's on that phone. I think she's a hero. She's a true hero for saving the man. Have you ever tried to transfer your phone or you lose your phone? You lose everything.
Oh, it's horrible. It's
It's
horrible.
horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah,
She did a good-
I have people that reach
she
out
did
to
a
me 6
service.
years later, and they're like, "Dude, you don't even know who's reaching out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, who's this?"
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like a good buddy or whatever, right? But
yeah, and you would have been so happy if she went down to get in the crevice of hell to get your get your phone. Well, that was studs and duds for the week. I think that was fun. We got a few minutes left. We started a half hour
Yeah.
early. Guess
Okay,
what, Sheldon?
so we
Hey, wait.
what?
Guess what?
No.
It's an hour and a half in. It's midnight. We started a half hour early. I had the whole plan right up until the T. Brian
Yeah.
Clark shows up, and guess where we're at right now? Trey, hit it. Never
Okay.
failed. Never
All right, it
failed.
was my fault, so I'll do a little overtime tonight. Chevy for overtime tonight.
Yeah.
You've got actually, and this is a good one to end on because this is a rare honor. And it might not be your last honor. I'm waiting to see what happens with the CFL. But University of McGill University reached out to you and said, Randy, we would like to honor you in our McGill Hall of Fame. And that was a few weeks ago, a few months ago, they reached out to you,
Yep.
but it's all happening now. I understand you're leaving early tomorrow on a plane out to Montreal, heading to McGill. Tell us a little bit about what this means. I've never been Hall of Fame for anything. Like
Yeah, well-
in Saskatchewan, you don't get a Hall of Fame. They just, they buy you a beer and a pack of smokes and take you out for like liver and onions at the co-op, right? But this is a big honor.
Yeah, you know what, Sheldon? Thanks for that. A great setup. I see a little bit of the chat that the Flames won tonight, so we'll shout out the Flames
There
for
you go.
those Flames fans out there.
Crazy.
But yeah, big honor. I am leaving tomorrow morning. I still got to finish packing tonight, so even though we're going overtime, I'm going to suffer again. But yeah, this is big for me, and it's pretty exciting. Like I said last time, and I don't want to spend too much time on that part of the Hall of Fame, but they had asked me for a number of years, and I kind of just downplayed it, like not really feeling like I deserved it. And, I don't know. I didn't think I was going to do it, but the reason I decided and accepted this year is because I thought about my mom and I wanted her to be with me for the ceremony because I started thinking about it. I was like, gosh, my dad, he would have loved to be there. And unfortunately, my dad passed a few years ago. And I thought, you know what? I want that opportunity for my mom to celebrate something with her son. She doesn't see me very often. Look at all the hair I had. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't have this bald spot that I get. Look at that. Look at that. Anyhow, I was young then. And so I'm going back tomorrow. I'm going to spend a day with mom and my sister. And then Friday afternoon is the Hall of Fame ceremony. And it's not the Football Hall of Fame. It's the McGill Athletics Hall of Fame. So it's all the athletes. They pick 6 different athletes or builders or coaches this year. And it's very esteemed company. As far as the McGill Hall of Fame, some McGill greats that went on to play pros like Michael Souls, who was a great fullback. People know him for the Edmonton Eskimos back in the day. JP Darsh, who played in the NFL for a number of years. Matthew Kivige, Val St. Germain. I believe, did you play with Val, Sheldon?
Oh, I played against Val a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was right.
So the Robin Belanger, these are great McGill athletes that I followed in their footsteps and feel very honored and I feel actually unworthy because those guys, some of those guys I mentioned, JP, Matthew Kivige, Val, these guys were mentors to me, and they were so that I never felt like I would measure up to those guys, that it felt almost wrong to be there. And I got a nice note from Kivige the other day saying that he was honored that I'd be on the wall next to him, so that's cool.
Yeah,
So
for
we're
sure.
So we're doing that on Friday, and then there's a homecoming game. And this is big for me too, because there's a lot of guys that are going to be at that game. I haven't been back to McGill in the fall for a football game since I last played there, because for every year I've been out, I've been a football player during the times that they play. And then life, happens for me and kids and job and career change. You can't just pick up and leave. So this is the first time that I felt that it was right. And I'm going to see guys that I haven't seen in 20 years. I'm going to go watch a football game at McGill for the first time in 24 years. I'm going to go see Coach Bailey. They have a brunch for him the next day, who was a historic McGill football coach. He was my coach, coached there for 33 years. He's about almost 90 years old now. And all the guys are having a brunch for him. So I'm really excited to go back and reconnect, not just with football, of course, and this Hall of Fame thing, but more with the people. And then obviously I get to see my family. I'm from Montreal. It's near and dear to my heart to see my family. So that's a big thing too.
So let me ask you this, because that is kind of neat. It's both your college town and your hometown.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to go back. You're going to go sleep in your own house. You're going to go see your mom. You're going to see some family. But when I think back to university football, and like he's talked about, because I've rekindled relationships with a bunch of the guys I used to play with back at Iowa State, but I haven't been back there yet.
Yeah.
So when Randy Chevrier goes back to Montreal and you're reliving college a little bit, what are the things that you just have to do? Is there a place that you got to go have a beer? Is there a restaurant you want to hit? Did you spend a lot of time on and around campus back in the day? What are the two things that you have to do when you get back there?
Well, when I get to the campus, the big thing is, big part of my McGill experience and football experience was also watching the Alouettes from Molson Stadium. And the big part of it is picking a spot in that stadium to watch the game that make me feel like I felt like when I was watching football back then.
But there's no trees there anymore, because didn't that stadium used to have trees growing out of it?
Yeah,
I know my first year going back playing in Montreal, there was trees they just had to cap.
Yeah, there was a tree that grew out of the stands. They had to cut it down for that playoff game in 1997 when the Alouettes, I believe it was 1998 when the Alouettes played against BC Lions in a crossover game. The U2 concert booted them out of the Olympic Stadium. And so they had to quickly change gears, and they moved to Molson Stadium, which is the McGill Stadium.
Yeah.
And that stadium was dilapidated. It's one of the oldest stadiums in Canada. They had to cut down a tree that was growing through the stands, and it's since been renovated. It's beautiful. One of the best venues to watch a college football game.
One of my favorite plays, even playing in the pros, I used to love going to that stadium playing the Alouettes.
So that's one thing. And then there's a couple of restaurants around the campus that I don't know if they're still there, but if Alto's is still there, I'm going to hit Alto's with some of the guys, and we're going to have the poutine and the pizza, because that's what you had at Alto's, or the sausage sub sandwich. That was the 3:00 in the morning eats. That was, it was the good stuff. Right. So just tour around campus, looking forward to that. But again, as I mentioned, any trip back to university is also a big part of it, is a trip home, going to see the family, because my university experience was different than many. I lived at home while I was a student athlete, while I was studying. I didn't have the money to go outside of Montreal for university. So I made the best of my experience. I made the most of it. And I sure as heck enjoyed university. Let me ask you a question, Sheldon.
Hold on. So you're saying you settled for going to University of McGill?
Well, I didn't have I'm going to tell you, I didn't have a ton of options, especially because I wasn't coming out of high school. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't a very academic kid, and it was really the sport of football that changed my life. I got introduced to football after high school. I was in CJEP, still not knowing what I was going to do. That's like a college, like junior college. And then I found football, and no one knew who I was. The only schools that were talking to me seriously was McGill and our crosstown rivals, Concordia. And so I didn't have many options. And when I was looking at the two schools, the fact that I got into education at McGill meant that while I was studying and while I was playing football, when I was done, I had something that I could instantly be employed in. McGill, choosing to go to McGill to pursue my studies and to pursue my athletics, was one of the greatest choices I ever made in my life. It's probably the greatest choice I made in my life was to choose that institution. I remember this. This is the one thing I remember about McGill. I had played in CEGEP, and what people don't know about CEGEP, it's like junior college. And a lot of guys from CEGEP go to the big-time universities in the States. They wind up in the pros. It's a really high-level league, and I played 1 year there. And when I chose to go to McGill, a lot of these guys were like, what are you doing going to McGill, a Canadian school? No one goes anywhere from McGill. And I'll never forget, before I even got to McGill, I said, guys, I am, no matter where I go, I'm going to make it. And if I go to McGill, I can make it just as much as I go in the States. Now, I didn't know the quality of that statement, how impossible that was at the time, because I didn't realize sort of all the limitations and the institutions of football and this and that. I just said it. I put it out there to the world, and then I did it from a school that doesn't necessarily produce football players. They produce doctors, politicians, teachers, lawyers. So
they produce long snappers.
They sure do. They sure do. So I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate. I'm very humbled by this honor. I'm excited because tomorrow I'm going to go to Mama's house. I'm going to see Mama Chevrier. I'm going to have some good home cooking. And then on Friday, that's when the festivities at McGill start. And it'll be a kind of a full day thing into Saturday morning with the Coach Bailey brunch. I'm super looking forward to it. But I was going to ask you, Sheldon, you talked about going to university. Could you go back? Like, what do you miss about university, first of all? What do you miss? And as a 48-year-old man, like we see this all the time, people going to reinvent themselves. Could you go back? Could you go back to university and go back and do the campus life, the school life, the student life? Could you do it?
I don't know what your experience was, but even when I was in university for the first time as an 18, 19-year-old guy, you'd have people auditing classes and the older students that just stuck out like sore thumbs. And they were old. Like we were 18, 19. They're probably 25, 26. Maybe a couple of 30-year-olds. So no, I wouldn't go back to university because I think I would stand out like a sore thumb. But you know, since I've retired from football, I have done a bunch of things. I've gotten my pilot's license, and where you have to apply yourself for 6-12 months. I went and got my real estate license, and then my broker's license.
Yeah.
And now I've, most recently, I've gone out there and I've studied and I've learned photography, videography, editing, all those things. So for me, could I go back and reinvent myself or learn a new skill? Absolutely. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons why things that gets me out of bed every day is when I get bored with something, I want to take it to the next level and learn the things that I was always curious about. Would I go back to university? Not for that.
Yeah.
But you know what I do? Well, you know what I do miss? And the same thing, like the bars and the 3:00 meals and all that stuff. Yeah, for sure. But we had that in our 20s and 30s as well, right? Playing in the CFL. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I miss? When I think back to Iowa State and Ames, Iowa, what I miss, if I went back there, I'd want to catch a basketball game. Hilton Magic, Iowa State Cyclones taking on Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas Jayhawks in the 90s and 2000s were the ultimate team. They're up there with Duke. And some of the other great legendary basketball programs. Every time Kansas came into our building, we would win. I don't think I ever saw us lose to Kansas. And those experiences in Hilton Magic with 17, 18,000 people in a basketball arena with the drums and everything going on, sitting in the student section was amazing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'd go back to a basketball game. And then, same as you, my dad passed. I will not get to have dinner with my dad again. But when they used to come and watch me play, there's this place called Hickory Park, which was this little barbecue joint. Not little, it was huge, massive. And when they came up for games, we'd always go to Hickory Park where you get, and I was a big, pig producer. There's more pigs than people in Iowa. So you get your pulled pork and you get your ribs and your half chicken and all the U.S. American sides, cream corn, baked beans, cornbread. But really, literally, like here, you can't get away with it by code. There is cooked in a little shack behind the restaurant with a fire. Wow. I miss the authenticity of small town, college town USA. I would go back and re-experience that in a heartbeat and bring my kids this time. That's what
I was just about to say that. That sounds like a Nasty and Little Nasty's road trip. Go back to Iowa State, go check out a game, just do the road trip. I think that sounds like the next thing you got to do.
Oh yeah. And by the way, the last thing I'll mention, Iowa State wins again, 7-0, ranked number 10 in the country.
Their quarterback.
We are the lowest ranked. We're the highest ranked. Rocco Becht
Yeah,
is
Rocco
our
Becht.
Rocco Becht is our starting quarterback.
So I played with his dad. I played with his dad in the New York
Shut the
Jets.
front door.
Anthony Becht, great tight end for
Yeah.
the New York Jets. He's also the head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks of the USFL. His son is Rocco Becht, and that's a pretty awesome thing that's going on there. He's
If
doing
he doesn't
great.
go Mr. Irrelevant like Brock Purdy did in the NFL, he may go higher. But if he doesn't make the NFL, dude, this guy is like well suited. He would be a stud in the CFL.
Well, because of Brock Purdy, he's not going to be Mr. Relevant.
Yeah.
He is going to be a fourth or fifth round guy just because of the success Brock Purdy had. Someone's going to say that's the next one, and he's going to have Brock to thank, right?
Well coached.
Nasty, you know what? This has been an awesome episode. I just want to let the guys know, without a slide, without nothing. You know me. I'm a geek. I love my geek movies. Venom: The Last Dance is coming out this week. Lots to cheer about. Lots of CFL. Well, last week action. World Series starting. So much going on. I'm gonna head out and finish packing. Guys, all of you that joined us tonight, our big stud Rob Evans, he's in the house tonight. Rob Evans is in the house. We wish we had the girl that went down to get the phone in the house too and ask her what she was thinking, but she ain't here. She's probably still in the crack. Guys, you guys are awesome. Trey, you are awesome producing the show. Nasty, you're awesome. Remember, our show's going to be up for download tomorrow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can catch it right after this again on YouTube. Love you guys. We hope you appreciated the longer show, the 10:30 start, the overtime, and everything in between. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next week. Probably the same time. Same time? I don't know. See you next week, guys.